Welcome to NC State. I'm here to talk to you all about interpersonal violence or IPV. Some of you may have had many conversations about things like sexual assault and consent, and others may have never engaged in these conversations. You may be in a healthy relationship or not dating or think for any other reason this doesn't pertain to you. It does. As new members of the Wolfpack community, you play an important role in knowing this information, learning the signs of IPV, and leading by example in order to keep our community safe. This conversation can be difficult for many reasons, especially for those who have experienced IPV or know someone who has. So I want to make sure you take care of yourselves. If at any point or for any reason you need to step away from this presentation, feel free to pause and come back as you need. If you would like to talk to someone, NC State has free campus resources available to support you. You can contact the Counseling Center at 919-515-2423. Or you can contact an advocate through the Women's Center at the 24/7 Sexual Assault Helpline at 919-515-4444 or email ncsuadvocate@ncsu.edu. If at any time during or after the presentation you feel as if you'd like to speak to someone, these resources are here to support you. If you feel you are unable to watch this video without experiencing emotional distress, please contact NCSU Advocate at ncsu.edu to discuss an alternate way to receive this important information and learn about campus resources. During this presentation, we will use interpersonal violence, or IPV, as an umbrella term for things like domestic and dating violence, stalking and sexual misconduct, which includes sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, and any non-consensual sexual encounters. Interpersonal violence can take many forms, including physical, sexual, emotional, or financial. Many members of our NC State Wolfpack community have already been impacted by IPV. Perhaps yourself, your friends, your families, classmates, or neighbors. It's important to know how IPV has impacted our incoming Wolfpack community so we can support one another and work together to create a safer campus. National research shows that 1 in 3 adolescents have experienced physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse by someone they dated. In summer 2019, NC State surveyed incoming students during new student orientation to see how many students had already been impacted by IPV prior to joining the Wolfpack. Among first-year students, nearly 50% indicated they had experienced IPV or someone close to them had experienced IPV. Among transfer students, this was even higher at 66%. Another 22% of first-year students indicated that they were not sure if they experienced IPV or someone close to them had, while 15% of transfer students indicated the same. As you can see, IPV has already left an imprint on our community. Following current trends, many more of you will meet new friends and classmates who have or will experience IPV during college. As a Wolfpack community, it will fall to each and every one of you to learn how to recognize the signs of IPV, how to intervene, and how to support one another if violence has occurred. During college, 1 in 4 female identified students will survive rape or attempted rape, and 1 in 16 male identified students will experience sexual assault, though these numbers may even be higher. People of all sexual orientations and gender identities experience forms of IPV during their lifetime. Interpersonal violence can affect anyone regardless of gender identity, sexual orientation, race, class, ethnicity, or ability. Anyone can be a victim or perpetrator. IPV is pervasive, and it is all of our jobs to end it.
Our community and leadership take interpersonal violence seriously. IPV prevention is directly tied to NC State's mission and values, as well as its rules and policies. Please join me in watching a message from Vice Provost Sherry Schwab.
Hello, Wolfpack community. I am Sherry Schwab, and I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the Vice Provost for Institutional Equity and Diversity and the university's Title IX coordinator. I'm also a proud alumna of NC State. Here at NC State, we take the health, safety, and well-being of our students, staff, and faculty very seriously. NC State is committed to eliminating discrimination and harassment in all forms, including interpersonal violence. IPV is not tolerated here at NC State, full stop. It is contrary to our values of ensuring a safe, equitable, and violence-free environment. It is also a barrier to achieving health and wellness, student success, and institutional excellence. We know that interpersonal violence, relationship violence, sexual assault, and stalking are all too common at universities across the country. We also know that they are vastly underreported. In fact, 90% of campus sexual assaults in the United States are never reported. We at NC State hope to change that, and we need your help. The Office for Institutional Equity and Diversity supports the university community by providing education, services, and resources to support and guide individuals in obtaining the help they need as it relates to the elimination of interpersonal violence. We will do everything in our power to educate people about these issues and to prevent interpersonal violence from occurring on our campus community. And we expect you to do the same. It's on all of us to prevent IPV from occurring. We want you to learn the signs of IPV, to intervene as active bystanders, to challenge the harmful narratives that perpetuate interpersonal violence and victim blaming, and to support one another if and when it does occur. Should you experience interpersonal violence, know that it is not your fault and you are not alone. Let me repeat that. It is not your fault, and you are not alone. We are here to help. We pride ourselves on providing an array of resources available to all members of the Wolfpack. You can learn more about these issues, including your rights, options, and resources, by visiting go.ncsu.edu/safe. Thank you for being a part of NC State and for committing to playing an active role in creating and fostering a safe and supportive Wolfpack community.
As you heard from Vice Provost Schwab, we want all of our students to be successful members of the PAC. It's our goal to create an environment that is free from interpersonal violence, stalking, and sexual violence. The NC State Code of Student Conduct specifically prohibits any forms of interpersonal violence, including domestic and dating violence, stalking, sexual harassment, and sexual misconduct. Students who violate this code are liable to be held accountable for their actions via a student conduct administrative hearing. These behaviors may also be crimes under the state of North Carolina. You can learn more about NC State laws from the NC State Police. For the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on NC State policy. We're going to spend the next few minutes going over NC State policy definitions and what they mean for our NC State Wolfpack community. Domestic and dating violence. Domestic and dating violence are types of interpersonal violence that occur when one person in a current or formal dating, romantic, or intimate relationship uses abuse to maintain power over a partner. Abusive relationships are not always physical. They may also be verbal, emotional, financial, or sexual. Some examples of abusive behaviors may include threats of self-harm or harm to others, pervasive and derogatory name-calling and belittling, using control or extreme jealousy to isolate a person from friends or family, controlling one's access to financial resources, including student financial aid, income, housing, or healthcare, pressuring, coercing, or forcing sexual intimacy, hitting, punching, kicking, or spitting. Threats of retaliation if someone tries to leave. So, for example, threatening to share someone's sexual orientation or threatening to share personal information, private or sexual information, without consent. Domestic and dating violence can happen in person and online, regardless of where and how it occurs. Domestic and dating violence is not something that goes away on its own. So it's important that if you or someone you know is dealing with this, you reach out for support. Stalking. Stalking is engaging in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to fear for their safety or the safety of others, or suffer substantial emotional distress. Stalking can occur in many different forms. It's important to note that stalking cases have the potential for violence to escalate very quickly, especially if there was a previous relationship or a perceived relationship. Some examples of stalking behaviors may be following you or monitoring your location through social media posts, showing up uninvited where you are, repeatedly leaving unwanted gifts or notes, repeatedly calling, texting, or commenting or liking social media posts, contacting you from other accounts if you do not respond, monitoring your phone calls, computer use, emails, or texts. As can be seen by these examples, stalking can take place in person and virtually, with online harassment and cyber stalking becoming more and more prevalent given the numerous technological platforms utilized to communicate with one another, including interactions on Snapchat, Instagram, dating apps, Zoom, Moodle, etc. Regardless if stalking is taking place in person or online, it's important to notify somebody that this is happening to you or someone that you know.
Sexual harassment includes sexual misconduct, sexual exploitation, sexual contact without consent, and sexual penetration without consent. Sexual harassment is any unwelcome conduct directed toward a person based on a person's sex or any unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature. Sexual harassment can include unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal, nonverbal, or physical harassment of a sexual nature. Some examples of sexual harassment may include unwanted contact from a professor, like repeatedly hugging and putting their arms around a student after class. This is also governed by NC State's Equal Opportunity, Non-Discrimination, and Affirmative Action Policy. Inappropriate content of a sexual nature communicated in an online course through the chat feature or through displays of sexually explicit images or content on screen. Harassment does not have to be of a sexual nature, however, and can include offensive remarks about a person's sex or making offensive comments about women in general. Sexual exploitation is taking sexual advantage of another person without consent. An example of sexual exploitation would be a partner sharing nude photos of you with their friends without getting your consent, or videotaping you during a sexual act without your consent, indecent exposure of oneself or another without their consent. Sexual contact without consent is the intentional touching of a person's intimate parts, the deliberate touching of another person with intimate parts, or using force to cause a person to touch their own or another person's intimate parts. This includes groping, kissing, or other behaviors sexual in nature. Sexual penetration without consent is the penetration, anal, oral, or vaginal, of another person, however slight, by a penis, tongue, finger, or an inanimate object, or mouth-to-genital contact or genital-to-mouth contact, or where a person is forced, caused, or made to sexually penetrate themselves or another person. This includes removing a condom without the other person's consent or coerced or forced sexual intercourse. Most forms of sexual misconduct are not perpetrated by strangers. In fact, most of the time, it's someone you know, a friend, a classmate, a partner. Any form of previous relationship does not make these actions okay. All of these behaviors are prohibited at NC State. When discussing sexual misconduct, it is important to talk about consent. NC State University's Code of Student Conduct defines consent as an affirmative decision to engage in sexual activity given by clear action or words. The decision to consent has to be freely, willingly, and actively by all parties. Individuals always have the right to withdraw consent or change their minds during any point of sexual intimacy or prior to engaging in sexual acts. If you consent at one point in time, it does not mean you consent every single time. Even in a relationship, you must obtain consent every time. If you consent to one type of sexual act, it does not mean you consent to all types of sexual acts. Consent is not obtained by the use of physical force, threats, intimidating behavior, or coercion. A lack of protest, resistance, or silence does not equal consent. Consent cannot be obtained if the recipient was not capable of agreeing to the contact because they were underage, sleeping, unconscious, or incapacitated. Alcohol is a factor in many campus instances of sexual misconduct. In some cases, alcohol and other drugs may be used intentionally to incapacitate an individual. Individuals who are incapacitated or unconscious due to alcohol or other drugs, whether ingested voluntarily or unknowingly, cannot consent to sexual activity.
Now that we have taken some time to understand what IPV is, how do we prevent it? It takes all of us. Your words and your actions matter. Often, the only signs of IPV that we recognize as a culture are those of explicit violence, and this must change. Be aware of red flags of relationship violence, stalking, or sexual violence at all levels. Our attitudes and beliefs influence our actions. Speak up and hold your peers accountable by calling out sexist, homophobic, racist, or sexually degrading comments. It's just as important to stop statements that are seemingly innocent, like when somebody makes a derogatory joke, as it is to stop an actual act of violence from occurring. Commit to practicing both asking for and receiving clear, active, and affirmative consent. You can ask for consent by asking things like, may I? If you're into it, I could. Do you like it when I? Would it be okay if I? If you are unable to ask for consent verbally, you can also use sign language or other clear nonverbal gestures. Receiving consent may sound like the other person responding, yes, of course, absolutely, or sign language or other clear nonverbal gestures. Remember that any response that is not a clear verbal or nonverbal yes is a no. I'm not sure, maybe later, I'm busy right now, all mean no. It doesn't always have to be verbal, but it must always be clear. If you do not receive clear affirmative consent, you can respond by saying something like, no problem. I'm bummed to hear that, but grateful I can trust you to say it. I appreciate knowing where your boundary is. Sounds good. Do you want me to ask again later? I still love you. You can also accept their decision and choose to no longer engage. If you are not actively engaged in a situation, then you are a bystander, and it is your responsibility to intervene. 1 in 3 violent crimes happen in the presence of a bystander. As a bystander, you can help prevent injury, help the person in need escape, or scare off a potential offender. There is not one right way to intervene in a situation, and how you intervene depends on the situation, your comfort, and your personal safety. In any situation, you can choose from the 3 Ds of bystander intervention: direct, delegate, and distract. Direct means to interact directly to prevent the harmful situation from materializing or continuing. Be firm, clear, and concise. This could be overhearing somebody use a racial slur and telling them that's not okay, or intervening in a disagreement to separate parties if you can do so safely. Or you can talk directly to a friend if you see them treating somebody else in an unhealthy way, and you can talk directly to a friend if you think somebody is treating them in an unhealthy way. Delegate means to seek help from a third party to intervene or respond. This might look like getting your RA to talk to your roommate who you are worried might be overly controlling of their partner. Notifying your professor of any inappropriate comments happening in class or online, or filing a complaint with either NC State Title IX or NC State Police to address any situation of IPV. Distract means to create a distraction that allows enough time for a potentially harmful situation to naturally dissipate. This might look like asking your roommate to play a video game with you instead of meeting up with a date if they are too intoxicated to give or receive clear consent. If at a social gathering, asking your friend to accompany you to the bathroom as a distraction if they're in a situation that seems unsafe or non-consensual. Or redirecting the conversation in an online group chat to change the subject if the nature of the chat is causing the group to feel uncomfortable. In any situation, you can intervene directly, create a distraction, and/or delegate to somebody else to help. Always be an active bystander by intervening in any way you can when you feel like a member of our pack is not living by our standards, and try to check in on the person who may have been harmed after.
It's not always easy to know what to say when someone tells you they've been sexually assaulted or that they are in an abusive relationship. It can be extremely difficult for someone who has experienced any level of IPV to come forward and share their story. They may feel ashamed, concerned that they won't be believed, or worried they'll be blamed. Leave any questions or investigations to the experts. Your job is to support this person. Be careful not to interpret calmness as a sign that the event did not occur. Everyone responds to traumatic events differently. Acknowledge that the experience has affected their life. Communicate empathy by using phrases such as, "Thank you for trusting me," and "It took courage for you to tell me." The best thing you can do is to be present and listen deeply. Remind the survivor that they are not to blame. Let them know that you are there for them and willing to listen to their story if they are comfortable with sharing it. Ask them what you can do to help. Remind them that there are resources on campus to support them and trust their decisions. You can always offer to accompany them to meet with the resources they choose. Allow survivors to choose what they share, if they want to share, and with whom they share. Respect their decisions and their privacy. Supporting someone who has experienced trauma can also lead to secondary trauma, so remember to take care of yourself too. The Women's Center can provide crisis intervention and emotional support, resource navigation, referrals and reporting support, academic accommodations, and accompaniment to hospitals, hearings, or other meetings. Financial support for student survivors is also available through the Women's Center Survivor Fund.
Another way that you can help is by knowing your resources on and off campus. The Office for Institutional Equity and Diversity, or OID, is home to NC State's Title IX coordinator. OID receives reports of dating and domestic violence, stalking, and sexual misconduct. We review the reports, provide administrative options through the university processes in an equitable manner, and can offer resources and accommodations. All of our resources can also be easily accessed by Googling Safe at State on the NCSU website or going to go.ncsu.edu/safe. This is the Safe at State website. From here, you can find all of our campus resources under Get Help. If you've experienced or witnessed IPV, you can report a concern. You can also find additional support by connecting with the Title IX coordinator through the link Complaint Resources if you or someone you know has experienced IPV, or find additional information and support through the link Respondent Services if you have been accused of misconduct.
Also on the Safe at State website, you can file a report with the Office for Institutional Equity and Diversity and/or the NC State Police if you have witnessed or experienced any form of interpersonal violence. You can go directly to this page at go.ncsu.edu/report-concern. On the Safe at State site, after you click File Report, you can also choose to file a report with OID and/or NC State Police. You can also choose to engage in an administrative process, including university inquiry or investigation and/or criminal investigation, or none of the above. You also have the option to file an anonymous or confidential report. Once a report is submitted, NC State will take reasonable steps to review the complaint and the harassment, prevent its reoccurrence, and as appropriate, remedy its effect. NC State strives to ensure that students, faculty, staff, and visitors are not subject to further harassment or retaliation. The Office for Institutional Equity and Diversity has additional resources on the Report a Concern page to help you know what to expect in their processes. When you file a report as a witness or survivor of IPV, we can use our resources to provide you with support. You can file on the Safe at State website or directly by contacting Title IX or with an advocate from the Women's Center. Regardless of which option a survivor chooses to use, or if they choose not to file a report at all, please know that there are people on this campus who will support you.
In addition to the Office for Institutional Equity, including the Women's Center, there are many other resources available for students both on and off campus. All of these resources are included in a brochure that is linked on the main training page, as well as on the Title IX homepage. Make sure to review this brochure. As we saw in our initial slides, unfortunately, IPV impacts our community, and you or somebody you know may need these resources. Additional resources include student conduct and the university police, which can help you stay safe through no contact orders and/or hold perpetrators accountable on our campus through reporting options. The Counseling Center is one of the only confidential resources on campus available to students who identify as a survivor or complainant, meaning the person who has experienced IPV, as well as the perpetrator or respondent, meaning the person who has been accused of causing IPV. Counselors do not have any reporting requirements, and counseling records are maintained in files separate from academic records. Counselors will only break confidentiality if you disclose imminent attempt to end your life or somebody else's, the abuse of a vulnerable person, such as a child or an adult who cannot care for themselves, or if they are court-ordered to release the records. These records cannot be accessed by faculty, parents, or anyone outside of the Counseling Center without permission from you. If you have been accused of committing interpersonal violence, you can seek information, resources, and support navigating the process through CARES Respondent Services. There are many additional resources both on and off campus and available remotely for NC State students. You can learn more about these resources, including student health, student legal services, and Interact, online at Safe at State or by reading the digital brochure provided to you. We'd like to end with a call to action. As part of our Wolfpack community, will you commit to learning the signs of IPV, practicing clear, active, and affirmative consent, being an active bystander by intervening directly, creating a distraction, or delegating to prevent harm from occurring, supporting survivors by responding with empathy and knowing your resources to help. It takes all of us to commit to the safety and health of our community so that we can think and do the extraordinary. As you continue to process this information, if you have any questions or want to further engage with this topic, please reach out to the Women's Center, the Counseling Center, or any other resources mentioned during this presentation. Thank you, and good luck at NC State.